It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Hello guys! So we're here sa ano to? Summer of George boat tour. So check-in muna tayo. Happy anniversary to us. Yay! Pila na kami kasi kailangan i-scan yung mga tickets na. Yan, na-scan na. So papasok na kami, konti na lang. Excited. Ayan, papasok na kami. So di mula sa parking lot pasok dito sa makipot na daan, ano. Ayan, sa docking area, dock. So, bebe. Ayan. So, time namin to magbo-boat tour in our 6 years together. So yeah. And again, we would like to thank Maraming.
For the tickets. Oh, thank you guys.
Yan, kasi una talaga nun, gusto na kong i-surprise si Rika kasi alam niyo naman ako, sanay ako sa may mga pasabog ganyan. So, since pareho kami ng account, makikita niya kapag nag-purchase ako ng kahit ano. So nakiusap ako kay Charmaine to book our boat tour for today. Yan. Pero it ended up na yung binook niya na boat tour, ano, binigay niya as a gift for us. So thank you very much, Charmaine. Big shout out to you, you know. Thank you so much. Yay.
It's a little cold, but you know what? I say we laugh in the face of the weather because we're out here having a good time despite being a little bit cold. All these buildings that you're looking at, like cakes with varying amounts of frosting. Every building is a cake with varying amounts of frosting. We used to put a lot of extra frosting on the cake to show it off from the outside. So if you see a lot of external ornamentation on a building, chances are it's a little bit older for us, anywhere from the 1880s to the 1920s. Let me give you guys an example of that. Out on the right in the distance, there's kind of a low off-white colored building and it's got columns up at the top. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Those ionic columns are not actually supporting any weight like they would in an actual temple that's frosting on the cake. So that tells you it's older. That part of that building is from the 1920s. It's the Insurance Exchange building. Then architects decide they're going to kind of start experimenting, get a little weird, strip away the frosting, less frosting, until we get to just the cake. And just the cake, that style is called modernism. It is super easy to recognize. You ready? Here we go. Tallest black box you can see in front of you, or the brown box behind it, or the brown box across from it, or the white box across from that, or the black box behind that, or the black box behind that, over to the right, black box, red box, whoa. But you kind of get the hang of it. Those boxy office buildings are generally modernism at work. And that's fantastic for about 40 years, between the 1940s and 1980s. But it understandably gets really boring. And so then after modernism, you have a style that literally means after modernism, post-modernism. And post-modernism, you're just adding frosting back onto that cake. You're just wanting to have fun with architecture again. And so let's take another look at this pink building through that lens. How is this building trying to have fun with architecture? Pause for the noise and for suspense. What if she dies right now? What if we haven't know she lost her? It's okay, I'm still here. So, take a close look at this pink building over on your right. And if I say it's a postmodern building, first thing you guys should ask yourself yourselves is, how is it having fun with architecture? Well, number one, it's pink. It's covered in red granite. Number two, it's got that weird shape, including the castellated top. All the way up on top looks like a little castle. That's actually referring to another building in Chicago that looks like a castle, and that's something that you guys are going to get the hang of by the end of this tour. These postmodern buildings like to have fun by referring the stuff that's around them. They kind of talk to everything around them. Now consider where that building is located as well. It is literally right across the street from the Sears Tower. And let me put it this way. I did say Sears Tower. We're going to talk about it, okay? So, who here has heard of the Sears Tower? Raise your hands. Okay, great. Hands down. Before about 3 minutes ago, who here had heard of 311 South Wacker Drive? Not so much, right? And so think of it like the Sears Tower, born 1973, is the oldest child. Everyone knows her. The second born child is born 17 years later, 1990, right across the street. How is she going to get attention? Well, she's pink, she's got the weird shape, but then most importantly, she has a huge drum of 2,000 fluorescent light bulbs on her head that she lights up at night, and it looks kind of like a huge cake. So we tend to call that building the wedding cake building or the birthday cake building, but now you guys know it's just known by its address. Now you know why it's postmodern. Now you know when it was built, 1990. Cohn, Peterson, and Fox were the architects. So we're going to kind of work everything into a context so that it's going to make sense. Now, we are about to get a really good view of the Sears Tower. We've gotten a couple of good views already, but there's exactly 2 times we're going to get this 110-story sweeping view of the Sears Tower. The first time is now on your right, where these branches and yellow leaves are sticking out. There's not a whole lot of places in the world where you can see 110 stories worth of building in one fell swoop, but here she comes. Get your cameras and your oohs and ahs out and on the ready. Let's hit it. Ooh. And as you're looking up, make sure you're smiling, because there's people up there taking pictures of you. And you are all taking pictures of them. It's a circle of life. So, let's go ahead and put the name change to a vote. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but the Sears Tower since 2009 has officially been called the Willis Tower. But I feel like I'm in a position, I have a microphone, I have an entire boatload of people in front of me multiple times a day. I'm going to just put it to who you'll remember gave us the NBC tower we saw before. They did this one in 2009, and you guys actually saw Trump Tower when it was under construction. If you ever saw the movie Batman The Dark Knight, remember towards the end of the movie when Batman is dangling the Joker out of something and those 2 bolts are waiting to blow each other up? He's dangling him out of Trump Tower under construction. Now the first setback of Trump Tower, where there's a really nice view from that terrace restaurant, is actually meant to be a reference height-wise to the white building with the clock tower that is just to the right of it. The white building is called the Wrigley Building, and you see it's actually 2 buildings. So the left side 1921, the right side 1924, designed by Graham Anderson, Probst, and White, the same ones who gave us the merchandise mart that we started the whole main branch of the river looking at. Now, when we hear Wrigley, what do you guys think of when you hear Wrigley?
Baseball.
Yeah, exactly. They answered the entire question right there. Baseball and gum, right? Well, William Wrigley Jr. actually originally was associated with soap. So Wrigley's Scouring Soap was the family business out on the East Coast, and it was William Wrigley Jr.'s job to bring the scouring soap business to the Midwest. So he started selling Wrigley's Scouring Soap in the 1890s, or late 1880s, and to make it more sellable, he would attach little packets of baking powder to the soap. Eventually he realized people like the baking powder even better, so he started selling baking powder with a stick of gum attached. And eventually he realized that people like the gum most of all. Now, here on the main branch of the river, look at this sweeping view. I love this view. The reason that we're getting the view that has buildings literally right in front of us as opposed to just on the left and the right is because we're following a bend on the main branch of the river. You can orient yourself on any map of Chicago by way of not only that Y shape of the river's confluence, but also this massive bend that you have on the main branch. So even when you look at like old hand-drawn maps from the 1700s, you can tell where you're at because Trump Tower is on the bend. Now the building that's on the left that has those tempiettos at the rooftop corners and the Belvedere, that tower up in the center, lots of frosting on that cake, so it tells you it's older. That's the Jewelers Building from 1926, designed by Thielbar, Fugard, Dinkelberg, and Gjaver. That's what you would have guessed, right? You're like, isn't that, I have a feeling that's Thielbar, Fugard, Dinkelberg, and Gjaver? So there's 2 things that are commonly told on tours about that building. One of them is true, one of them is not. what is true is that yes, the Jewelers Building had one of the first elevators in the world that could take people with their cars up to their offices.
Wow.
Pretty impressive for 1926. What is not true, Al Capone did not operate a speakeasy up under that golden cupola. Has anybody ever heard that myth? Yeah, that's a pretty common myth you'll be told. Here's the thing. Yes, there was a bar. It was called the Stratosphere Club. It opened up in 1937. Well, think about it. By 1937, number one, liquor was legal again, so it would not have been a speakeasy no matter who. Tax evasion. After everything else, tax evasion. Do you know what he was rotting away from? Yes, it has to. I won't say it over the microphone, but let's just say it had to do with his brothels. So, coming up after this bridge on the left, in French, but right next to it, this very reflective building. Look all the way up to the top. It's got this triangular pediment, which turns the whole thing into like a Greek column, a postmodern twist on a Greek column. That one is just known by its address anymore, 77 West Wacker Drive from 1992. James DiStefano and Ricardo Bofill were the architects on that one. Now, if you don't remember anything else I just told you about that building, remember one thing. Come back at night, when all the lights start coming on the buildings and the bridges, come back at night and look at that building at night. Because they actually hired the same man who designed the lighting for the Louvre for that building. So out of all the buildings here, that one is especially beautiful at night. Pierre Arnaud strapped 540 little lamps all around that building. But you can't really see during the day unless you look closely. But at night, you get 540 little stripes of light all over that building. It is absolutely stunning. Okie dokie. Now, coming up on your left, in fact, all along your left, all along the main branch of the river, we've been passing by various sections of the Chicago Riverwalk. This is something that you would not have been able to visit 10 years ago, certainly not 20 or 50 years ago. Remember, our river used to be so filthy it was capable of catching fire. It's not exactly the kind of place you want to go and have a cocktail next to it. So it really took a concerted effort on the part of the city and on the part of our very often corrupt politicians. They do some good stuff, right? To actually make the Riverwalk into a publicly accessible, welcoming, commercial spot. And it's really been over the last 5 years or so that we've been opening up every bridge-to-bridge segment. The idea is eventually to kind of wrap it around and go down the South Branch a little bit. Ford makes a phone call from a payphone that is no longer there. But over here on the left after the bridge, look at these gardens. How beautiful is this? There's nothing to buy, no one's shoving capitalism in your face, no loud music or anything like that. It's just like a nice little place to just sit and enjoy the moment. And look at the gardens carefully. They're actually moving around. Those are floating gardens. Floating gardens. How cool is that? Imagine coming back here in the evening when it's getting dark out, the lights all start coming on the buildings, the water is reflecting the lights everywhere, and then you can just sit there and listen to the sound of those gardens kind of knocking against each other in the river. It is so, so pretty. So I recommend coming back and doing that. Now, we're about to pass under the Franklin Street Bridge, which you would have seen in the movie Batman Begins, connecting Gotham with the Narrows. Why do they use this bridge in the movie Batman Begins? Because of the Art Deco building that's right behind it. Art Deco looks very Gotham City-ish because for us it looks retro. For its time, it's futuristic. And Gotham City is like retro and futuristic. Now on the left, I love